you know if you need an FBA? What we're going to be talking about today is how to identify what a full bust adjustment would look like if you needed one when you see it on the garment, and how to not only identify, but fix and measure so you know exactly how much to add. Today for Tricky Thursday and the Read the Wrinkles series, let's dive into how to do a full bust adjustment. Hello and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Trisha, your pattern nerd friend, and we like to talk all about pattern making, sewing, and fitting here on my corner of the internet. And this is the lovely Susie. Susie is modeling what it would look like if you possibly needed to have a full bust adjustment done to your pattern. Now, an FBA or a full bust adjustment is a very popular adjustment that needs to happen for a lot of people, especially if you have a larger bust. We aren't going to get too into how to identify this before you get to making your pattern out of fabric. I feel like there's a lot of tutorials that show you how to do that. I want to focus today on the FBA tutorial on what you do when you see it in the fitting. How do you know how much to add, and how do you make that adjustment on a finished mock-up or finished garment? Now, it is, as I always say, really hard to intentionally show something doesn't fit. But I did my best here with Miss Susie, and if Miss Susie could talk, she would be feeling this more than I'm seeing it. Same thing if you were doing this on a real person. But I think I'm going to help you out by drawing in, and we are going to be talking about what wrinkles and what visual cues are going to tell you that you're going to need this kind of adjustment. Now, it's a little hard to see the wrinkles and what's actually going on here with little Miss Susie, but I'm going to highlight some of the things that I'm noticing. And as I always say in a lot of my other videos in this series, and if you haven't checked those out, my Read the Wrinkles series, then you might want to go visit some of those videos where I address how to identify what those wrinkles are trying to tell you. But in this case, we have wrinkles, drag lines from here on both sides. So where are they pointing to? The bust area. And now this isn't so much a wrinkle that we can see on this particular top for Miss Susie, but if she was a real breathing human, she could probably tell you that she's feeling tightness between her breasts and needing more space there. So if you're seeing these kinds of wrinkles and gapping here in the armhole, and sometimes you're gapping in the armhole and it's just a matter of you needing to take some of that space out, but oftentimes it's telling you it's gapping in the armhole because you're needing more space here. So what do we do about this? And how do we know how much? If you would like me to do a tutorial on how to know if you need a full bust adjustment before you start making a garment, let me know in the comments. But for today, we are going to envision the scenario is you've already made up the mock-up and you're seeing this on a fitting. How do you know how much to add to get the fix that you're going to be needing? So that's what we're going to be doing. Another thing to mention with the FBA or the full bust adjustment is that it also depends on where your darts and seams are located on the bodice that you are doing the full bust adjustment. But the method I'm going to show you, you can use in any of these cases. But if you'd like me to show you another version, a different kind, like with princess seams or with the dart in a different position, let me know that in the comments too. I'm happy to have some content ideas and help you out with whatever it is that you are working on. So to dive into this, and what we're going to need for our fitting is a pair of scissors or some snips, a few safety pins, my favorite fitting tool, and something that I like to use with fittings is this grosgrain ribbon, or any kind of ribbon that doesn't stretch is also going to be helpful for this kind of fitting adjustment. So what we want to do is we are essentially adding, with doing the full bust adjustment, we're adding space right here over the bust mound in between. So instead of guessing or doing math to figure out how much that we want to do, I love to use this intuitive method because it will show you exactly how much to add, and the person wearing it will actually get to feel what that will feel like. And I do want to give credit to Gina Renee, the author of the fitting book, which is one of my favorite fitting resources. And I love the way that she outlines how to do her full bust adjustments in that class. And I love this method. And this is kind of where this idea of using the grosgrain ribbon really came to me, with how to do this if you're seeing it in a fitting. So now, since this is where we want to add the space, I am going to put a cut right about where I think the bust point will be. And then I'm going to cut from that little snip. I'm going to cut all the way to, but not all the way through, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch here in my armhole. And then I'm going to cut from this point down along the side of the dart all the way to, but not through, the bottom of the waist. So you can see I've obviously opened up some space here, and it's all loosey-goosey. But this is where your grosgrain ribbon comes in. You want to take a little piece of this and you can place it inside. You can either go right over the top of where your apex is, where the bust point is, or you can do it a little bit, one on top and below, whatever makes the most sense to you. What we're trying to find out is, what is this space that's going to work in the middle here? And I'm going to go ahead and cut the other side so that we can kind of do this at the same time. Now, this process can be a little bit fiddly, so I did that off camera, but I did show you the one way where we added the one ribbon across the bust area so we could measure how much we need to add in that area. This is probably my favorite method, but you can also do how Gina explains it in the fitting book, as she does one above and one below, which you could also do. But notice in both of our situations, we no longer have that gapping at the armhole anymore, that our armhole has reset and kind of gone back into place. And if Susie could feel this, she would say that this isn't feeling tight across her chest anymore. She has room to breathe and move. So what we're really looking at is the amount of this space here. To measure from here to here what this space is, that is going to be the amount that we need to add for our full bust adjustment. So on this side, even though we don't have the ribbon right there, it's still the same. This is how much we need to add in that area. And I do have both sides pinned here, and a lot of times when I'm doing fittings, you don't have to do both sides, but for something like this where it really is dealing with the whole front, it might be easier to really get a true idea of how much you need to add by doing both sides. Now, I would probably recommend using the same method, but I wanted to show you both methods. Now, what does this look like on the pattern, and how do we fix it? Okay, now the reason that I like this method is because we're gonna know exactly how much space we need to add for the full bust adjustment by doing it this way. So whether you do it like this or you do it like this, whichever method, this one seems to make more sense to me, but of course it's up to you. So the main information that we need off of our mock-up, our fitting, we don't even have to take the whole thing apart. You just want to know what this space is, the space right here at the bust point. How much do we need to add here? So I'm going to go ahead and measure, and for me, that is 5/8. 5/8 is what I need to add right in the bust area to give me the room that I need that will fit Miss Susie better. So in order to set up our full bust adjustment, and now there's lots of different ways to do this, but I'm gonna do it the basic way, and since we have the dart right here, I'm gonna go ahead and go right through the dart. Now on my pattern, because I used Susie's sloper to draft this, I already backed off the dart, which is what I used for the original mock-up that you saw, but I also have the true bust point marked here. So I'm gonna use the true bust point and angle out towards the armhole. And then I'm going to slash right through the middle of my dart. And I'm also going to put a slash over here coming 90 degrees or perpendicular to the center front going to that slash line. Now that I have all of these slash lines, I'm going to cut from the hem here up through my dart. I'm going to pivot to this slash line going into the armhole and cut to, but not through that armhole, so that that's going to give me a hinge over here in my armhole. And the last thing we need to do is cut this slash line here so that we can increase the front. Because you can see as I'm swinging this out, this dart leg is getting longer. So we need to lengthen the front. And with a larger bust, usually you need the longer length to go over the bigger bust and add that little bit of length to the center front. So now that we have this set up, I'm gonna get some paper so we can add what we need to add and tape it all down. Okay, I got us some glue paper so you can really see what I'm doing here. So once we have our slash lines cut, then we want to open up this space. So this space in between here is going to be the same as that ribbon that we added in between to figure out how much. So we want to open that space up the 5/8 of an inch like I measured. About there is our 5/8 of an inch. And you can go ahead and tape that down. Once you have that set, then you can know where to line this up so that our dart legs are the same length when we are going to draw our dart back in. So if I go here, this is about 3 3/8. If I went about the same and went 3 3/8, look at that. I was right on the money. Woohoo! I love when that happens. And something, before I tape this down, something that might also help you, I find it really helpful for myself, is when I'm taping onto a new piece of paper, I like to draw a center front line, especially when I'm doing things like this where I'm extending the center front. I want to make sure I'm staying in line with the rest of the center front. 3 3/8 from here. There we go. Okay, once you have everything taped down, then you want to go somewhere in the middle of this space, about here, to draw your new bust point. And then we're going to go back to our original dart legs here. So I'm going to go here like this, and here like this. And that is our new dart that we're gonna use. And we have increased the bust by 5/8 of an inch right in that area. Now, I would want to fold this and get my dart root after I've backed off. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I thought I would show you this part. So I already backed off my dart and I drew my new dart legs. I crease along here and I fold to close my dart. And this is where you want to double check and make sure that you extended this long enough and just true it up. I'm pretty darn close. I think I'm off by a 1/16 of an inch, and I'm not going to add seam allowance. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut along the line that I want. And there we go. So I would cut out the rest of this pattern and then I could sew this up with the back, and we'll see what it looks like after it's been corrected. All right, here it is all adjusted. You can see that this fits her much better in the bust. We don't have that gapping in the armhole or those dramatic drag lines pointing to her bust. And if Miss Susie could talk and tell us how she feels, I bet she would feel a lot better. It wasn't too hard, right? And if you notice, we ended up with a much bigger dart than what we started with. And that's exactly what we needed to give the amount of cuppage that we need for the bust that Susie actually has. Bigger dart for a bigger bust. Or sometimes if it gets so big, you can split it into two and balance it out a little bit more. But I do have another video talking about that, or we can dive into that a little bit further if you are interested. But I hope that you found this interesting. And if you find yourself in a situation where you are with a mock-up or have a garment that needs a full bust adjustment or an FBA, and you've already sewn it up, that you can actually still find out how much you need to add in the fitting. And this way it takes the guesswork out and no math, right? Don't you just love that? So that's all we have for you today. Now, again, if you love pattern making and fitting and all those kinds of stuff, and you want to learn more, the best thing to do is to get on my newsletter. We do have the very popular Fitabulous Fit Bootcamp, which will be coming up very soon. And the best way to know about how to sign up for this and all the other fun events that we have going on in CCA world is to get on the newsletter, which you can find the link down below. And of course, subscribe, turn on those notifications, like and share with your friends. That all helps me to create more content that hopefully helps you in the sewing room. That's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.